Oops, sorry guys. Whereas I'm live and I paused my music, I just got caught up by something. Based on Discord. My bad. Realised it was just dead air. So, okay. Alright gang, it's good to be back. Thank you Mr. E for the super chat. I think it's like a 5-minute delay I put on. I don't remember why I put it on, but yeah, because most of the people on these chats are subscribers, but the mistakes of past me cannot be put on present me, you know? That's a different guy entirely. But no, appreciate everyone coming back. Yeah, took a week off. It was a pretty crazy week to be fair. What the mic, my volume on my mic should be good. I'm in the yellow. My mic volume should be fine. I'll show you guys. So you should be able to see that. So this is the area I normally aim at. If it goes too high, it does cause issues. So I think my mic should be fine, to be honest. My laptop's okay. I see that I can't help. But like yeah, from this like my audio should be fine. So it can't be helped. Bluetooth speakers are pretty good though, honestly. If you get a Bluetooth one, like they're not perfect because there's a slight audio delay, but honestly, I would they're a good solution for like less than £10. Um, so yeah, I would think about that if you can. They're pretty cheap now, honestly. But yeah, we are so back. It's been a week, crazy week because all the stuff with Israel and Iran. You had Mamdani, who's potentially being elected. I think he will win the. I think it's the governor of New York because Andrew Cuomo is the. I think he's the current governor of New York, but he lost the primary, and you know it's so interesting to have a guy like Mamdani there. Just because you know, even my brother was talking about it. My brother's not really that political. Like he kind of listens to you know my ramblings and stuff. Is it mayor? Is it mayor of New York? I thought it is governor. I thought Cuomo was the governor of New York. Uh, is it mayor he's going for? Oh, the governor of New York was Kathy Hochul. Right. I thought Cuomo was governor. I must have confused him with someone else. Who was before her then? There must have been. There was some dude who had beef. Um, Her Excellency. Jesus Christ. Succession. Who was before her then? George Clinton. Who are these? Oh, I'm so confused. Oh, my bad. Mayor then. That's my bad. I thought it was Cuomo. He had list of New York, list of governors of New York. It was someone. He had Cuomo had beef with someone. Let's see who. Oh, don't. Why are you giving me from 1777? No one cares. No, it is Cuomo. Cuomo was governor. Hmm. Until 21, he resigned. Right. That's interesting. So who's the mayor then? Eric Adams is the mayor. Oh, I'm so confused, guys. I should actually learn what I'm talking about. Mamdani. Threats to Mamdani to cut off New York City if Mamdani doesn't behave. Oh, okay, Trump. So which role has he gone for then? This is a bit embarrassing from me, honestly, guys. Sorry, this is a big fumble for me. I thought he was going for governor. Oh, the Guardian being cringe. So which role has he gone for then? Zohran Mamdani. Wow, 91. He's not much older than me, guys. That's scary. He's not much older than me. But yeah, no, he's cool. He seems alright, to be fair. We're gonna have to wait and see. New York Assembly, New York City mayoral campaign. Alright. Interesting. I thought he was against Cuomo because that's what I saw, but Mamdani's victory in the 2025 mayoral primacy. Right, I didn't realise Cuomo had even gone. Because I remember he said, I'm not perverted, I'm just Italian. Oh, he's the mayor then. Eric Istanbul Adams. Oh. Former cop who has allegations of corruption. Mayor. Oh, that's my bad, guys. I'll take a L on that one. Appreciate you guys correcting me. I see. Yeah, get the Bluetooth speakers, man, honestly. If you can. Starmer got roasted at Glastonbury. Yeah, he's had you know what? It's been bad. Like honestly, it's been outrageously bad. I think this week. I've taken a break from politics. So I'm seeing my boy seeing my playing this game called Expedition 33. My goat fam. This man King of Drip. I want to get one of these posters. It looks so good. But yeah, my boy Renoir. Game so good it's got me speaking French. Saying words like gommage. Embarrassing. But yeah. But yeah, you know, it's been a rough old time I think for for the Labour Party. I think, not saying they don't deserve it because they 100% do. Honestly, it's kind of shocking how quickly the wheels have fallen off. I don't think in the books we've seen this. I know people argue about Liz Truss, but I think Liz Truss. The difference with Liz Truss is that she was never elected by the public, and she won the vote of a very tiny um amount of Conservative voters. And you know she was elected by a bunch of lunatics, effectively. I can't remember who she ran against. Was it Jeremy Hunt that she was against? um, in that leadership contest. No, it's Rishi Sunak, wasn't it? Yeah, she was against Rishi Sunak and she won. But yeah, it's honestly, I think it's becoming untenable. Like I don't know what to make of it, to be honest. It's like I put a post up a couple of days ago or last week talking about I'm kind of more annoyed with kind of um YouTube's commentary people rather than the actual politicians themselves. Because the thing with politicians are, yeah, I expect them to be bad. Like they're not elected because they're competent, really. Like it's a fool's game. Like the one reason I would never get involved in politics is because you know you're gambling that the general public actually aren't clowns, and the general public, unfortunately, are full of clowns. So I don't know. For me personally, it's one of the reasons I wouldn't get in. Local politics is possible, but like I'm still. Why is this on the OBS screen for? That's not right. Oh, it's because it's far behind. That's why. Okay, no, that's my bad. Um, I don't. For me personally, I'm just kind of not exhausted by it, but it's kind of like I've been doing this. I've been following politics for probably about see over 10 years, probably about 12 years since I was like probably about 16, 17. I think I did A levels, A level AS politics. Ironically, I did fail that year, and then somehow I'm like covering politics on a daily. But I did get my degree in politics, I guess. So it does help a bit. But like I've followed this stuff for so long now, like probably longer than 12 years, but since 2010. So probably what 15 years since the coalition government really. And it's kind of crazy how bad politicians still are. Um, the fraction of political opinions is intended. Um, like like I don't know. The problem is when you get so good at something, well, it's a bit glazing, but when you get like when I watch other people doing commentary, like they're either wrong or I don't learn anything from them, but their content isn't aimed at me, it's aimed at normies, I guess. Like even my content, like if someone there's only a few people I respect in the space, but if one of them watch my content, they'll be like, yeah, no duh, um, because it's not that complicated. It's just when you see some of the other people, like you hear their takes and you're thinking like, bro, what are you talking about? Like genuinely, what are you talking about? I don't get it. So it's hard to explain, but I think I've gotten pretty good at this to the point where like it is a bit boring in terms of like in terms of UK politics. There's not a ton for me to learn. Like in terms of like global politics, there's a lot. Like my cousin has asked me why don't I cover more the Iran Israel stuff and things like that, and I was just like, I don't feel like I've got the depth of understanding to talk about one of the most complicated places. Probably, nah, it probably is one of the most complicated places in the world. I think Africa and the Middle East are probably the most complicated places in the world to explain to anyone. And then it's probably Asia, like Far East Asia. It's probably like the three I guess three real monsters, not monsters, but the three big beasts of geopolitics. The Middle East, definitely I'd put number one. Africa number two, and then Asia, definitely Far East Asia number three, because there's a lot of cooking in Asia, especially any people. A lot of takes for UK politics are differing forms of centrism, thinking they're not. Phil, different bias, and his audience are a classic of this. I think the problem is he's kind of I don't know, he's too Labour pilled on it, but we knew that from the jump. Like he doesn't really hide his bias, but it does make his analysis pretty bad. Um, like sometimes I watch his videos, I'm just like, bro, what are you talking about? Like, genuinely. Because I'm trying to think of what was that guy's name, man? Ali, Lord Ali, right? Um, there was a quote from Lord Ali saying, what do you call it? And we'll talk about that, when we get to the Tory corruption bit. But there was a bit where Lord Ali was talking about how he's the bridge to Starmer effectively. Him, Sue Gray, and someone else are the keys to to talking to Starmer. Trying to see if I can remember the quote. See if I can find it. but I can't find. Let's see. Work with Sue Gray announcements Labour's first 100 days in power. I can't remember where the exact quote is. Ah, there it is. Sue Gray and Donegate. Ah, this one the demo. I don't want to read it from them. But there was a quote about it, how how he was involved in it, and it's like, okay, so you want to minimize the donations that Lord Ali made, saying, "Oh, it's just a pair of glasses." If it was just a pair of glasses, why didn't Big Dog pay for it himself? Like, he makes enough money. Like, Starmer makes way more than median income. He could have paid for himself. Corbyn is still in politics. Daniel, is he what? Big Hat Man must be deeply disappointed. Do you know what? I don't think he covers him. We can have a look quickly. Can have a look. I reckon he's on so much copium right now, as he would say. Almost typed in my name there. I don't think he covers Labour, I'll be honest. Just check out. We'll call this Op Watch, where I look at the ops. So, Floodgate. So, he's talking about reform. A video on Mandani, which is good. Reform. Do you know what? Let's bring this up so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 videos on reform. 1 video on Labour. Let's see. Another video on reform. Another video on reform. Another video on reform. Straight off Hormuz. Would I trust his opinions on Iran? Probably not. But yeah, a video on Iran. Daniel Hanan, so a Brexit video. Trump video. It's nothing. I don't think he's done almost no videos on Labour apart from this one. So like, it is crazy. Like, what I'm saying to you is, it's crazy how, like, you could have someone so obsessed with Labour who refuses to discuss them. It's wild, isn't it? Let's see. Corbyn's still in politics. Is he? What's your beef with Corbyn? We have a few good ones here. Unfortunately, not in any unionist parties. Yeah, Labour in Scotland is a bit of an issue. I don't know much about the Lib Dems or the other ones. Yeah, Akis, you love that man. Leader of the SNP in UK Parliament is very good. For example, I forgot his name. Stephen Flynn, the GOAT, the MVP. He might be the best we've got in Parliament, or one of them at least. But yeah, at the moment it's a bit outrageous, I think. So yeah, who knows? Man, looking at this man's art, it's actually crazy good. But yeah, I don't know, man. UK politics is kind of boring. I'm not. Is a bit like, maybe I'll move to international stuff. I need to find the people that are worth listening to on international stuff. That's what I need. Because on the Brexit stuff, like, there were loads of experts on Twitter just giving out so much advice for free, so much expertise for free. I was like, bro, this is I'm taking all of this, and that's one of the reasons why I got so good at it. I had so much help, and on Brexit, I'm probably one of the better ones to be on YouTube, to be honest. Outside of, like, people with actual trade expertise. Politics is simple, and it's all about stupid reform and how bad Trump is. See Canada as an example. Still unaffordable for most people, but Orange Man bad, so always vote Liberal. Yeah, that's true. Stephen Flynn outstanding. With Canada as well, they got their own problems. Like, there is a big problem with housing. I think some of the people are talking about how it's cheaper to buy a medieval castle in Europe than it is to buy a house in Canada, and it's like, that's wild. Like, you could be living big as, like, an earl of whatever, chilling in a big castle, be a good tourist destination as well. But yeah, no, it's a bit weird. I'm just gonna grab my phone, just be back in a sec, and then we'll get to topics. Unless there's anything you guys want to discuss quickly. Anything you guys actually want to discuss? Because I was meant to put up community posts, but I've kind of been fumbling on it a bit. So we'll do it for the next one. Then I'll start getting back into form and actually putting up community posts. Do you know what? I'm so confident. I'll do one now. I'll put up a community post now. I'll put one up now. Let's get back to doing this. Even if no one has any, like it's worth putting these up. If I can sort my spelling out. I think we're not far off 100 of these live streams as well, which is kind of sick. Why did Labour make such a catastrophic mistake in penalising the poor? Do you know what it is? I can tell you now. So what happened was, it's the fiscal rules. It's like I said to you guys last year. So what's happened is there's not enough headroom because of all the tariffs and stuff. So Rachel, what Rachel Reeves was saying is, I'm going to spend this much money, and say we've got, I don't know, say 10 billion pounds in fiscal headroom, right? So it means if there's a shortfall of around 10 billion, they'll be fine. What happened was that shortfall was getting cut. It was getting cut massively. Yeah, it's not an issue. It's getting cut massively, and so she had to make savings from somewhere. So they were told, I think they need to make, I can't remember how much exactly it is in savings, but it was a significant amount. So what they did was, instead of taxing the rich, or looking at certain levies they could do, maybe raising capital gains in line with income tax, right? What they did was they went after poor people again, because it's an easy target. Because if you're a person who's vulnerable in society, right, who are you going to vote for? Your best bet is, in theory, is Labour. It wouldn't be the Lib Dems. And the reason why you wouldn't pick the Lib Dems is because all the damage they did in 2010. The other option is the Green Party. Now, voting for the Green Party is a bit ropey because of the fact that A, they're going through a massive leadership change to the point where core policies are going to be changed. Also, B, there's a very low chance of the Greens winning in the seat you're in. So, you can vote for Labour, who, in theory, should protect you, or you can vote for the Tories, who are definitely going to do the opposite of that. A wormhole of debt. Yeah, it was, a lot of it was down to the fiscal rules, and this is what I said to you guys before. Like, those fiscal rules will be a massive problem for the Labour Party, but I was told it's not an issue. The savings from throwing disabled in the volcano are immensely apparent. That's why we're investing in a ramp to the summit and floodlights for what? The thing is, right, it's not a lot of money, and the other problem you have is, like, okay, from what I've seen from the Labour Glazers, right, they were saying, like, chances are Labour won't have to make these cuts, because they're basically trying to convince the OBR that they can make the savings, right? So they're convincing the OBR, like, in a couple of years' time, we're going to save all of this money from cutting PIP, and therefore you've got to allow our budgets to go through because it's done on a forecast. So you're trying to predict the future, all because of the markets. When I think what the government should be doing is making bonds easier to buy for people. That might help a little bit, especially given how high the interest rates are on bonds, and that I don't think the general public know how to buy a bond or sell a bond. So I think that could do it. Why can't they tax the rich? Well, first of all, Labour are funded by a lot of rich people, so that's a problem. Like going to Davos and stuff. Like, you can see that, like, one of the reasons why Labour dropped their green policy, in terms of all the investment they were going to do, wasn't because of the markets. It was because someone in Davos convinced Rachel Reeves and Starmer that the private sector will do the investment. That's why, you haven't seen a ton of green investment into things like Labour promised they were going to do. That's not Labour, that's the Starmer Party. The thing is that they're one and the same. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you could say, well, all of the, creating the NHS and all this stuff, that wasn't the Labour Party, that was Clement Attlee. Going into the Iraq War, that wasn't the Labour Party, that was a Tony Blair. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's the Labour Party is whatever the leadership wants it to be at any time. That's what it is fundamentally. So, in my opinion, like, people are like, it's like when people in football say, "Oh, it's not my club." When they do, like, make bad decisions, it's like, no, it is. It is, like, they're the ones in control. Like, these are the people. Regardless of what you think of the goon, these are the people the membership put in place. At the end of the day, like, Starmer tricked the membership. Whether you think he was right or wrong to do that, he did. And the problem is, no one internally wants to challenge him because he's too powerful at the moment. Starmer couldn't be trusted when he I mean, the thing is, like, there were signs of mistrust. There were signs of mistrust, like, the fact that he U-turned on some of his key policies so fast and denied having them. Do you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't hard to predict the heel turn. Like, Casper, it wasn't hard to predict the heel turn at all. It was just, you couldn't be naive to see it. Like, it was there in front of us when you put the piece there. This wasn't Code Geass Lelouch Rebellion. This wasn't Tier 1 writing. This wasn't Expedition 33. Like, I wasn't like, yo, this is a plot twist, this is crazy, like, I could never have predicted this. This was They put the pieces right in front of us. All you had to do was connect the dots. You drew one to the other to the other, and there you go. 1, 2, 3. That's all you need, right? So what I'm telling you guys is, it wasn't that hard. It's not some big plot twist. But the problem is, there were people who were too naive to see it, and then they attacked the people who could see the truth of the situation. Doesn't this country print money that they spend? Yeah, we do have control over our own currency. There are issues with quantitative easing, because a lot of this country is basically built on the confidence of the bond market. That's all it is. So what that means is, like, we're at the mercy of a bunch of city traders. Now, like I said, in my opinion, I think they should make it easier for people to buy bonds. Um, that's what they should be doing, because a lot of these, like, when you invest in like a savings thing, anyways, most likely what they're going to do is they're going to buy bonds. When you invest in a pension fund, they're going to buy bonds. So I think personally, maybe they make it easier for people to buy bonds, and therefore we're less at the mercy of city investors. Because I think if you can convince British people, probably, or any people of any country really, to invest in that kind of stuff. So maybe that's something people should think about. I don't know. Um, but yeah, we'll see how patriarchal all of these guys are um when that happens. But maybe that's something they should look at. But yeah, if you guys are happy, go to topics. If you guys want to discuss anything for a little bit longer, I can do that. So just let me know what you guys are thinking. So I'll give you guys a couple of minutes. But from what I can see, there's not too much going on in the world apart from Starmer making infinite U-turns, Mamdani being called a communist, which is fun. Comrade Mamdani on the beat. Trump, I'm going to send letters. That's the end of the trade deal. I could send one to Japan. Dear Mr. Japan, here's the story. You've got to pay 25% tariff on your cars, so we give Japan no. What? So
I thought I just said it.
no way he says this.
So you're going to send them clarity on what you're going to do with these expiration of these pauses. July 9. No, I think I thought I just said it. No, I thought I just said it. You ready? You're going to send letters. I'm going to send letters. That's the end of the trade deal. I could send one to Japan. Dear Mr. Japan, here's the story. You're going to pay a 25% tariff on your cars, so
That's incredible. I love this. I love this so much. So yeah, that's great. Labour can't bow down to the rich. I mean, I think the land tax, from what I've heard from people, the land tax seems to be the most effective tax that they could do. I think it should be on property as well, to be honest, because it's not exactly like you can move property. The only thing you could try and move is ownership of the property. So, but yeah, I think that would be a good idea. Do you know what, guys? I was gonna do more stuff. I was gonna do something on Graham. I was gonna do something on Graham, something on the austerity boys policy, austerity boys thing, and something on Graham, the austerity boys, and Phil. So what I might do is I might try and live stream in the week. We're gonna aim for a midweek stream, guys. Probably around Wednesday. Will Starmer be gone for? Nah, I think he's fine. I think we're very close to September as well. He's fine. Summer recess. What's the point of voting for Labour? There's not much point, honestly, unless you live in a Tory Labour seat or a Reform Labour seat. There's not much point. Did they tax the rich even for a short time? Pretending like they are. I think I'd want to see land taxes or something where, something based on assets. Put capital gains tax in line with income tax. And if they want to move, if they want to divest from the UK and buy shares elsewhere, then so be it. Do you know what I mean? Like, why should they pay less? Why should someone who can just make money off investments have an easier time than someone who actually has to work for a living? Like, I disagree. So I would raise capital gains in line with income tax. It's just a tax cheat. So I don't know. Is there any political party standing up that'll stand up for the poor? I'm hoping Zach Polanski, but the problem is I've got some real questions I want to ask Polanski, but I did email him and I did ask him if he wants to, if he can appear on my channel. but so far I've got no response. It's been about 2 weeks, so probably going to give up on that one. Um, so yeah, I was going to ask him about why did he join the Lib Dems in 2015? Why did he leave the Lib Dems, and what was his reason for joining the Green Party? Given that these are very different Green parties. Um, is Pedro Pascal really proving himself to be the goat? So yeah, so I'm just with this stuff like yeah. I think the Green Party, it's either Greens or the SNP. To be honest, if you live in Scotland, they're your best bet. There are people in this country that can't afford to feed their kids, yeah, and you know what? The thing is, Labour will make some positive changes, but they'll also make some negative ones. And you know, for people that are disabled, it's gonna be tragic. Um, Honestly, it's gonna be awful. Trump has had more impact in the last few months than politicians had in their lifetime. That's not good. You know, Joseph Stalin had more of an impact in his tenure of the USSR than most politicians will in their lifetime. Doesn't mean it's positive. You know, people actually have the most outrageous takes. Yeah, you got the secret barrister being the secret centrist. Um, but yeah, no, I don't see much else that's that too interesting. So yeah, let's start the video then. I don't think there's much else. Have you guys got any more questions? If this bill passes, it's over for Labour. I think they're going to put themselves in a position where why don't you email Stephen Flynn? I mean I can email Stephen Flynn. I don't know what I'd ask him. Hi Steve, it's your buddy, Big Maj Studios, big fan from England. Would you want to appear on my channel to discuss topics? Do you know what? Do you know what? Right, I will email Stephen Flynn. Let me try email Steve. I'll be like, yes, big up Steve. Flyboy Flynn. Maybe I will interview him at the end of this. It's more for the Sunday roast, to be honest, that kind of interview and stuff. But yeah, we'll run it. We can run it. Um, I can ask him if you guys want. Uh, I don't think he'll agree, guys. Honestly, I got a feeling he won't agree, but we'll see. Before we start, if you guys want to drop a super chat or get a membership or Patreon, just feel free to go for it. If, you know, I'd appreciate it. But we got quite a few people here in the stream, so I appreciate that as well. We've come up with questions, all of us. Yeah, I'll put up to the community. I will honestly, if he agrees to appear on the channel, I'll do a community post like a special one, and I'll post it before the thing. I'll post it on the community section. And then yeah, you guys can ask him, like, you know, depending on how much time he has, because I imagine he's quite busy. I can ask him you guys questions. Yeah, it wouldn't be a problem. But without further ado, we'll get into topics because I don't want to finish too late because I got work tomorrow, guys. So let's get started on this. So this is we'll do a minor one, a minor couple topics, then we'll go for the major stuff. So this guy is a hereditary peer. You know, being angry they're getting rid of hereditary peers.
I feel very privileged to have been able to do it. I've served as a minister in various departments and an opposition spokesman in various departments, and very stimulating it has been. And being a part of a House of Parliament that does essential work to make our laws better and
honestly, yeah, Flynn versus there would be no contest. It would not be a contest.
Than they were when they were introduced into the Commons is a very satisfying thing to be a part of.
Absolutely, and just to be clear, when you are both a government minister and a shadow spokesman, I mean, you're doing the job. You're doing the job pretty much full time. It's not. This is not a sort of
Thanks, Casper, for the super chat. I really appreciate it. The sticker, good job. Thanks, goes a long way.
part-time role. You've devoted many years to public service.
He's also been paid for many years of public service.
Well, that's right. It is full time, as many of your listeners
It's not being a member of the House of Lords is not full time. Half of these dudes are asleep.
will know. The House of Lords,
Yeah, exactly.
Has.
There was a bit where some guy tried to make a statement or ask a question, and one of the I don't know if they're called like a baroness or whatever. She was like, "You fell asleep through this whole thing. Get lost."
As the House of Commons does, ministers for every department of government and opposition spokesmen for every department of government. You can't do those jobs part-time. It is a very big commitment.
Absolutely. And how are you feeling about the Hereditary Peers Bill? The fact that your service in the House of Lords is now coming to a very abrupt end?
Brother, like, you've got enough money. Just retire. You're an Earl. You've got money. Just retire.
Well,
Go spend time with your grandkids or something.
Well, obviously, from a personal point of view, I'm feeling very sad. But if I detach myself from my personal feelings, I think it's important to say that no one is trying to retain the old system. No one's arguing that heredity should continue to be a route of entry into a House of Parliament. What many of us find up
Didn't Thingy get rid of hereditary peers? Didn't Tony Blair get rid of it? I thought that was gone ages ago.
setting, and indeed objectionable, is the government seeking to remove active and experienced members of the Lords for its own political advantage. And I'm sorry to put it in that way, but that is what the numbers mean. Only 4 of the hereditary peers being removed are Labour voters. The rest are not. And that, I think...
Did Tony Blair not get rid of hereditary peers?
Sets a very...
Replaced with appointed ones. It's minister appointed, right? Or Prime Minister appointed. It's up to the Prime Minister, and I think Leader of Opposition gets a few as well.
Dangerous precedent. Ending the principle of hereditary...
There are still about 100. Okay.
Peers...
It turned out to be one of the worst. Okay.
Entering the House of Lords is one thing, and it's a principle completely accepted. But removing active sitting lawmakers is quite another. So the question to ask, I think, is should governments have free rein to expel from Parliament a group of people whom they've taken exception to?
They haven't taken exception to. It's just an age issue, and why shouldn't you pass the torch on to the next generation as well? Like, at the moment, the way they keep adding so many members to the House of Lords every year, it's going to be overinflated anyways. What value do you actually add to people apart from taking hundreds of pounds for turning up for a few minutes? Ridiculous, honestly. Get rid of the House of Lords. Like, we can have a second chamber, it's fine, but it should be full of barristers, lawyers, doctors, people with actual professions, and they should be the ones going through the legislation, not this bunch of ghouls. We go back to some classic Tory corruption here. Cash for questions. MP George Freeman submitted parliamentary questions drafted word for word by a company that pays him. He took their whole flow, bar for bar, word for word. Outrageous. So yeah, MP refers himself to Commissioner over cash for questions claims. The Conservative MP has referred himself to the Standards Commissioner after it is claimed a company had help that he worked for helped him write questions to government. Now, I saw Phil trying to conflate, kind of say like, Lord Ali took some money for glasses and like the tickets and stuff, but they're buying access. They're being more covert with their corruption. This man's just an idiot. This man's so stupid. Like, there are easy ways to get around British corruption rules, and this man does not know how to do that. Freeman was previously advised by a government committee not to lobby the government on behalf of the firm due to his previous roles as Science Minister. The Mid-Norfolk MP said in a statement to the BBC he doesn't believe he did anything wrong, while his party said it would be inappropriate to comment at the time, which is classic. But then what they're going to do is they're just going to keep asking questions about it anyways. Do the new lords who have been appointed allowed to pass on to their next of kin? No, I don't think they can anymore. Hereditary monies, now all they have is assets. New money is suddenly accepted. What is the percentage of public school educated in both houses? It's probably quite low, to be honest. It was, if young people from the general was in House of Lords, I would support it. Yeah, it's meant to be based on merit, but most of the people are just done, things in business, really. Freeman told the BBC that through his roles in Westminster, he had regularly asked experts for clarification on technical points and terminology. He said he was very concerned at the targeted and unauthorized access to my emails, which he has raised with the police. So someone, it looks like, has leaked the info on him. It was about throughout 15 years, has always stood to, it looks like someone's got the jump on this guy. So, should be quite interesting to see how this one plays out. Cash for Questions, classic scandal there, really. A tale as old as time itself, because I think Major had similar problems. So it should be interesting to see how this one plays out in terms of things. So let's see what else. This is another minor one, and then we go to the main event. So this is West Streeting talking about how the big mistakes he's made.
While the government's in confessional mode, what's your biggest mistake of the past year been?
Actually, I sort of did my confession last week in a way. If I take the issue of maternity...
so not trans issues, okay.
The big mistake I've made in my first year is approaching that issue of the maternity crisis in what I describe as a conventional way of doing government.
What's the maternity crisis?
Government policy. I've sort of been commissioning advice, looking at it, not really liking it, sending it back, pulling in different experts, still not being entirely satisfied, coming up with an action plan, putting it to the victims of some of the worst maternity scandals in the country, and then at that stage being sat in a room day after day, as I did the other week, with families who've suffered the most unimaginable horror, with them saying, hang on a minute, not only is this it, but actually saying, look, you've gotten this completely wrong, and crucially, you're trying to do this to us rather than with us. And
that's classic Labour. That's what you've done to the disabled community as well. Like you're doing it to them, not for them.
I really learned something in that moment about how to address this crisis, which is I've got to do it with these families. That's how I'm going to get better answers, better solutions to a scandal that has left babies dead.
Yeah, 60% of peers went to public school, 23% of MPs. The MPs one, it's not so bad. The peers one is quite egregious.
Women suffering life-changing injuries, family breakup, and all sorts of other heartbreaking stories that I've heard. And so I sort of offer that as a point of reflection, really, which is, we're learning all the time in government. There's a lot on. There are big challenges facing our country, and I think that it's important that we do constantly self-reflect and learn, because I don't think it's just, when we walked in, it wasn't just the state of the country department by department, issue by issue. There's a fundamental problem with how the state operates, how government is run.
He's not wrong, it's very top down, but the thing is, like, you can't make this argument but then also do the stuff they're doing to people on PIP and things like that. It doesn't make any sense. Like, what you've done to the disabled community is you haven't listened to them, and you've imposed these changes on them rather than discussing with them. You can't make this argument you should have listened to people on this specific issue and not do it in other areas.
And it's that reform agenda that I think is desperately needed. And that's been one of my learnings in the first year in office, proud though I am of all of the other things that I think we've done on the NHS in the first year that are moving us in the right direction.
It's crazy work, but let's go for the main event now. So we wasted probably half an hour on this. Or not wasted, spent about half an hour. So Starmer says it's total bollocks to suggest his top aide, Morgan McSweeney, is controlling political direction of government. Now, if it's not McSweeney and it is Starmer, it does show you this man's got the worst political instincts possible, especially because he was talking about how he wants to get rid of the two-child cap. He's like, bro, you're Prime Minister. If you want to get rid of something, you can do it. It's within your remit. Like, if Rachel Reeves said, we can't afford that right now, you just get rid of Rachel Reeves at that point and say, bye-bye, I'm going to get this policy through. Crazy. So, this is from The Guardian. How did relations with MPs get so bad? This week's rebellion was a long time brewing, but it came to a head on welfare because MPs did what they were meant to do, raise issues privately. So MPs were discussing things privately. What's the ratio of inheritance? Airships? No idea. This issue came about because Labour refused to listen to people. Starmer's top team refused to listen to people. And, if you're saying that it's not Morgan McSweeney calling the shots, that means it must be you. And you're doing a very, very bad job. I would have just said, if I were him, I'd do the classic movie, throw McSweeney under the bus. You get new advisors and you change direction. But you haven't really done that. You've done a half-hearted U-turn, which people can still see through. The UK, let's see.
Oh, can I just ask on the point system? Do you think
So this is about the PIP's point system?
the 4-point system is too strict? Is that an area where you could make concessions?
Well, it's one of the whole PIP system is going to be reviewed by Stephen Timms and
So
working
possibly.
with the Disability Minister, working with disabled people.
Shouldn't you have done that from the start, though? Because you come up with this green paper, you've come up with this thing of changing the point system, right? And then now suddenly you turn it because you realise how bad it is. Like, shouldn't you have done all of this from the start? And I don't want to see anyone talk about hindsight and all of this stuff, right? This is how you're meant to do legislation. Like, you're meant to consult stakeholders, especially key stakeholders, on a massive change like this. Sent an email to my local MP, do not pass this bill. If you do, Labour will not win the next election. I didn't get a reply. Who's your MP? Having rushed forward, this is from Ian Bryan, having rushed forward these reforms to save £5 billion in the spending review. £5 billion is not a lot of money. It's not a lot of money in the context of the economy, right? Now it seems the minister admitting the package needed more thought. So if they can't make the savings that they are looking for with these changes, they're talking about 5 billion in terms of savings, right? If they have to cut that to about half, where are they going to get the other money from? Especially when they're spending all of this money on defence. Like, you spent all this money on defending the nation or whatever, right? All of this nonsense, buying new jets and whatever. What's the point of that when you can't actually support your own population? But the real question is, how many UK parliamentaries went to fee-paying schools? Public schools would be a small proportion of the UK's fee-paying schools. It's interesting. Disabled people already on PIP will be judged by the original criteria when up for reassessment. The Guardian can confirm, but those that come off benefits and the later reapply will be treated as a school the tougher rule. So if you go off PIP, you can't to come back on. You'll be judged by the harsher criteria. This is from Francis Ryan saying, my body is somewhat collapsing after this week, so I cannot respond to individual queries, nor can I or anyone else say what exactly will be in the next week's refresh bill. But the facts we do know as things stand are not on my timeline and in The Guardian. This is the latest. There's understandable lots of misinformation and speculation, largely because the government has failed miserably in communicating, and the bill is chaotic, because we don't actually know the exact changes. She's right. At the end of the week, after much digging, the above is all we know. We will, of course, continue to dig. So in essence, it's the same bill going forward as planned. Nothing has really changed. They're just sugarcoating it. A lot has changed, but not enough. I think what they've changed is that people already on PIP will not be judged by the new harsh criteria. So this, honestly, is crazy work to me. It's a two-tier system. This person here, I'm a Labour MP, and this is why I can't support the government's bill. So there's a lot of Labour MPs publicly denouncing the government's bill, publicly. They're not making any secret of this because they know how unpopular it is. The ones that have made public, they know that, this could be the end of their political careers. So, for them to go against the government like this so openly is big Theresa May vibes. And Theresa May didn't have the majority that Starmer had. In fact, Theresa May had a minority government. So yeah, that's that. So the flip side of this is 5 Tory prime ministers have brought down by their own failing. Let's see, here it is. So Keir Starmer MPs may have mutinated just a year into power. They forced a series of humiliating U-turns, pushing the PM to the left. Now many in Labour and some in government want him to sack Rachel Reeves and Morgan McSweeney. So what you can see from this is the fact that his two most senior lieutenants, in terms of McSweeney, his key advisor, and Reeves, head of the the Chancellor, people want them gone. There's a lot more I want to discuss here. It's open season on Starmer. His power is draining away. So this from Kitty Donaldson. And these journalists, the ones in The Guardian who cover Labour, are generally have very good connections. But Bloomberg, as always... sorry, Kitty Donaldson's at the Eye. She's used to work for Bloomberg. But she would have, good connections within government. Saying Sir Keir Starmer's approach approaches his first anniversary in office with his authority and judgment frayed, and amid speculation from Labour MPs, his latest U-turn marks the beginning of the end of his tenure. And I think people can see straight through this. Honestly, Liz Kendall, don't start me on Liz Kendall. There's more here.
They're now in a position where Labour MPs won't support cuts in spending and, in fact, are demanding more spending. So where does that leave Rachel Reeves?
In a very bad place. Her spending plans have been blown up by the Parliamentary Party twice over. This isn't a small amount of money in the context of the minuscule amount of headroom Rachel Reeves left herself. This is about £3 billion the government conceded yesterday. By the way, the Treasury were very unhappy about that, and it took the Prime Minister basically to intervene on Thursday evening and say, no, we are definitely doing this no matter how unhappy you are.
So you can't, who are you blaming for the fallout here? If the Prime Minister is personally saying we are going to do this, what more do you want to know that Starmer is washed? And we knew that from the start he was washed. No, we saw it over and over again, misplay after misplay after misplay from Team Starmer. And I pointed out repeatedly, from those posters that were racist, to the policy U-turns, to everything else, the fiscal rules. I told you guys that these are not the political operators that people think they are. I'll give you the best example of this. Sorry about that, guys. I think my internet's just buffering at the moment.
Treasury, well, maybe not the Treasury, but number 10 will fold and say, okay, you can have exactly
switch
what you want. And there are two big things coming down the track. There's an immigration bill, and there are similar reforms on special educational needs, which ministers say, look, ultimately, some people are going to lose their provision, lose the sort of entitlements thereafter. On this evidence, they are never, ever, Labour MPs, going to say, we're going to vote to take anything away from anybody.
Of course not, because it's the right thing to do. Like, this is what I'm telling you guys. Like, it's like this clip in The Simpsons. Like, people acted like Starmer or some sort of tactical genius the way he beat the Tories, but it's this scene from The Simpsons.
All right, Homer, you can have the dental plan on one condition: you must resign as head of the union. Woohoo! Smithers,
This is the Labour goons here.
Beginning to think that Homer Simpson was not the brilliant tactician I thought he was.
I'm beginning to think Sir Keir Starmer is not the brilliant tactician I thought he was. That's what's happening here. He was never that good at politics. And this argument of, he's good at assembling a team together. He's like, he's the what's it called? The what's the dude? No, Captain America, the other one. He's the Nick Cage. He's the people acting like he's this brother here from the Avengers team. It is Nick Cage, isn't it? Is it Cage? Got the right brother. Sorry, guys. It's not Nick Cage. It's the Fury. That's it. It's Nick Fury. I was so close. People are acting like he's the Nick Fury of the team. Like he's gonna assemble a team of drillers. He's gonna assemble the Avengers, and everything will be okay. He doesn't have to be in the field. He's not exactly Iron Man. He's not Captain America, but what he will do is he will assemble these characters together, and they will lead. No, that's not who he is. He's a bit thick. He's a lot thick. He's not very bright at this. He's not good at politics at all. It's not his wheelhouse. Should have stuck to law. You got this one. Labour right and the Blairites were never good at any of this either. Blair inherited and rode the biggest credit boom in human history, and no one complained because their house prices went up. Yeah, exactly. That's what it is. And people had access to credit to buy houses as well.
This is a good deal. It's a big change.
So this deal. So this is Meg Hellier. This is one of the ones leading the rebellion, right? And so she's managed to get the concession of basically people on existing claims won't be impacted, but new people will be.
Since last week, massive changes to ensure that the most vulnerable people are protected. And
they're not, though, because you still have to go through the stupid point system. Straight cap.
In terms of their personal independence payments and the health element of universal credit. And crucially, involving disabled people themselves in the design of future benefit changes under the TIMS review, under Stephen Twim's, the DW.
It's ridiculous. This geezer.
Right now, it's very worrying if you get a job and then for whatever reason you are not able to stay in that job. You have to go back to square one in terms of the application process. We're changing.
The thing is, that's not for PIP. If you're changing it, people that are on disability, I think it's universal credit. You got people on that, right? And the argument of, oh, if they go to work and they can't manage it for whatever reason, they have to go through the new harsher system. Like, it's stupid. This whole system is so dumb. Like, he really does live up to the nickname two-tier Keir. When people called him Sir Kid Starver, I felt that. Sir Grandma Freezer, I felt that. But two-tier Keir is really living up to his name.
Well, the changes that we are introducing will make sure existing claimants are unaffected, but we also all agree that there do need to be changes in future.
Who's all of us? Who is this all of us?
To make sure that people who can work do so, we protect those who.
There are all to go through the mechanisms to claim disability for universal credit is ridiculous. It is a conservative system. Do you think the Conservatives would have made an easily accessible system? No.
Can't, but that we make the welfare state sustainable for the future. These are really, really important decisions. We have listened to people. We have engaged with them. I think we are in a good place now.
This compromise is complete nonsense. It's complete nonsense. If there's not much in it, it's not good enough at all.
Aside the huge investments we are putting in to create the jobs that people need in every.
So you're going to do all of this investment on the backs of the most vulnerable in society, people that are disabled, people that can't work. You're going to do all of this investment off their back. What's the point? What's the point of building a state like that? It doesn't make sense. A state should be looked at the way it treats people who are sick, who can't work. That's how the state should function.
Part of the country to get waiting lists down in the NHS, to ensure stronger rights at work, but
even the cadence that she speaks at, like Liz Cantor, these decisions we are making is a choice. As always in politics, you always have a choice, and the thing is, it's just not. She has wanted to cut benefits for over a decade. She was part of Ed Miliband's team who wanted to do austerity. Anyone making the argument that Labour have to do this is complete nonsense. Are people not going to still have to claim something, especially if you can only get part-time contracts? They still will have to, yeah, because there's a threshold for it, I think.
So to make sure there's employment support for those who can work and protect.
Why would an employer, right? If you're an employer and you have to offer, you have to pay large amounts of people to make adjustments for them, and I'm not saying this is right, by the way, but you have to make large adaptations for people. It's going to out of cost. Why would you hire someone in that situation? Unless the government is going to foot the bill for it, and in that case, what is the point, right? You're just subsidising companies at that point. What are you trying to do, apart from trying to fudge the unemployment numbers? It doesn't make sense. Samantha Niblett, an MP who removed her name from the welfare amendment, apologised. So, this situation is so toxic at the moment that, MPs are having to apologise for backing out of a rebellion. A Labour MP has apologised to those who might be hacked off with their decision to essentially back the bill. Minister said the bill's crucial. Is there any other statements? She said the stakes are just too high if the amendment passes. She said that she will continue to lobby the government to rethink its position. So, if this amendment passes, we'll lose all the good elements of the bill along with the problematics. What good elements of the bill are there? The most valuable people who desperately need protection from constant reassessments would remain trapped in the current broken system. But you can change that. You can repeal bits of legislation if you want, or you could pass a bill getting rid of this stuff and then come up with a completely new thing, a much better way. This argument, this is the trap that centrists put you in. Centrists and right wingers put you in this trap of, we're going to put this bill, it's going to be really toxic, but there's going to be a few good elements in here. Because I don't know how to look people in the face, including some of the people I work with. And she's talking about her experience working with special educational needs. I think that is network. Disabled people have come and spoken to me at my surgeries and morning coffees, and my own mum who would be excluded from a PIP under the new scoring system. She said, so what? Fucking hell! You've pulled away. So this is so stupid. So her own mum, right? Her own mum would not get PIP under the new system, right? So now she's backing a bill that would penalise her own family. For what? We should be back. So it's just the most ridiculous argument she's making, because what you've done is you've made the right decision, right? Okay, fair enough, you pissed off your colleagues or whatever, right? And then you turned on it. So obviously everyone's going to be annoyed at you because you're a turncoat. This is absolutely pathetic from this MP. Honestly, absolutely pathetic. this is, speaking of someone who actually does have principles here, Nadia Whitcomb.
Reason for MPs to vote against this. All the points that were set out in the reasoned amendment that my colleagues tabled still stand. There has been no formal consultation with disabled people. There has been no government impact assessment, no OBR analysis of likely impact of the reforms that they will have on employment. And actually, we have even less information now to vote on than we did previously, now that the government has made really fundamental changes to the bill.
And they're trying to rush it through Parliament.
Which will either be drafted over the weekend and presented to us on Monday with less than 24 hours before the vote, or will be expected to vote on the basis of verbal promises made by the minister at the dispatch box.
You never take politicians that make verbal promises. You get it in writing, always, especially politicians, the slimiest people.
I think that's not something we can justify.
The government is saying, though, that more information will be available early next week, so there will be more.
Yeah, but if they're going to try and push a vote on Tuesday, you're giving people less, a day to read it.
More detail there for people to get their heads around.
Well, the vote's on Tuesday.
Exactly, the vote's on Tuesday, so you're going to give people 24 hours to read this legislation.
Yeah.
Early next week, the order paper.
It's so dumb from this person in the media who's just read the tagline. They went to the government for a response and said, "Oh, this is our response," and she didn't bother to question the response.
It comes out on Monday afternoon. That will be less than 24 hours, and the government is rushing through.
It's so stupid, honestly. This is the problem with so-called journalists and media pundits. This is embarrassing from her. Shocking. Do you remember what life was so crap? Do you remember when life was so crap between 2010 and 24 that we all couldn't stop complaining that the solution did indeed lay in not giving money to disabled? What? Anybody could be disabled. Biology is brutal. Yeah, it doesn't. The thing is, you can't help your genetics. That's the problem. It's a lottery at the end of the day.
Members of the Cabinet, you on this programme this morning, and you've said it previously, the current system is not sustainable. But even after your review, the bottom line is you want fewer people in receipt of PIP, fewer disabled people in receipt of PIP, don't you?
Well, we want to make sure we're getting the line in the right place in terms of...
So the answer is yes. You want fewer disabled people claiming PIP.
We've got, I think, 1,000 more people coming on every day. It's not sustainable in its current form. It's just not. And unless we address that issue, we've got to do it in the fair way. We've got to do it in a right way. Right. But unless we address that issue...
But you won't say that out loud. Why not?
Well, I just did.
There will be fewer disabled people able to claim PIP in the future.
We've got to, as I literally just said, we've got to make sure that in terms of where we draw the line, where we get it right.
So you're changing the criteria. So you want less people to claim PIP. He's saying we've got 1,000 more people coming to PIP every day. It's just not sustainable. So you want less people to claim it. You don't condescend someone when they clearly laid out what you said, dickhead.
It is sustainable for the longer term.
Okay. You estimated...
She's a lot friendlier than I would have been in this situation.
Oh, can I just ask on the point system, do you think the 4-point system is too strict? Is that an area where you could make concessions?
Well, it's one of the whole PIP system is going to be reviewed by Stephen Timms and working with the Disability Minister, working with...
But you should have done this from the start.
Disabled people. And as I say, there is a genuine commitment to try and get this right.
You estimated you'd get £5.5 billion worth in savings from the original reforms. The IFS now estimates it will be about £2.5 billion.
So this is the same thing as the winter fuel allowance, where they said, they're going to make this big savings, right? But then because so many people claim pension credit, there was virtually no saving. And now they've U-turned on it. So I think, potentially, it might cost them more under the current rules, because you've got more people claiming winter fuel allowance, and then the cap is at 35,000 for winter fuel. So all of these U-turns might actually cost them more.
Is it worth, for those savings, all this political firestorm?
Well, people will not thank us down the line if we do not reform the welfare system to make sure it's sustainable and fair.
What do you mean sustainable? You have to look at why people are being able to claim PIP, because, like I said, this criteria is not easy to pass. This criteria is the conservative system. It wasn't built for people. It wasn't built in the interest of disabled people. It was built against their interests. So you have to look at why so many people claim PIP, on what basis. A lot of it would be just a massive NHS backlog, huge NHS backlog, which, to their credit, the Labour Party are working on. But the thing is, in the meantime, you have to offer people something. You got people who are I was saying PIP is their only lifeline. You know, like how can you not read the room? Like the societal cost of this is crazy.
It does come down to that point, and unless you reform the system, I genuinely fear that it won't be there for anyone in the future. There are plenty of people out there on the right of British politics who don't believe in the welfare state, and those of us who are products of the welfare state, myself included, where it put food in the fridge and money in the electric meter when I was growing up, we know it's too important to lose. It's got to do two things. One is to be a genuine safety net and a protection from poverty. But for those people who can also work, it's got to be a springboard back to work, to support people into work. Because
the thing is, what are you doing to support people back into work then? Because again, unless employers are going to make special adaptations for people, which 100% they're not going to do, what's your plan here? You know, what you keep talking about, you know, work coaches and all of this stuff. Like, what are they going to do?
It's got to,
because these work coaches will have a cost.
A contributory system, and of course there'll be some people who through no fault of their own cannot work through severe illness and disability, and we should protect those people.
Sure. That's why you changed the criteria there, Big Dog. You made it much more difficult for them to be able to claim PIP.
You've made that
more
point.
generous support, and that's what we're doing. But those who can work should be supported to work, and there are some brilliant things in the bill that enable us to do that,
absolutely,
including the right to try.
You know, you've made a toxic bill and you put some decent things in it. So you're going to give people snake poison, but with a can of Coke.
I work for disabled people.
You and the Cabinet and the Prime Minister, you knew how hard this reform was going to be and that you would have to bring your own MPs along with you. How did you get it so wrong?
Well, I think there'll be plenty of reflection on that. I think that...
What do you think? How?
Well, I think, look, Labour MPs raise concerns in good faith. They raise concerns. Normally we deal with this later in the process because you normally have a vote on the principle of the bill, then you go on to detail. I think the concerns were so substantial and people were concerned that we wouldn't get to a point down the line where the bill was improved, that they took the extraordinary step they did this week with that amendment signed by over 100 Labour MPs.
Okay.
Because it's garbage. People can see what you're trying to do here. That's the problem. You know, as connectivity drops, cybersecurity, THQ will sort out all our random current internet issues. What? What does that mean, Mr. E? This from Louise Hay, who you know, said some okay things and then said lots of cringe stuff.
I think this week has demonstrated that there are serious issues with the political strategy and with the relationship with the wider Parliamentary Labour Party, but I'm really pleased that the Prime Minister has acknowledged those issues and accepted that they exist and that there is a need to address them and move on, and that serious lessons need to be learned and that we can all move forward.
How do you think he got it so wrong?
I think that there have been issues with both the economic policy and the political strategy.
So the economic policy, that goes back to Rachel Reeves, and what was the other bit she said?
Strategy, that's what was...
Political strategy, that's the dig up was Morgan McSweeney, which I think she's not on good terms with.
Drove so many colleagues to take this unprecedented step this week and were so frustrated. I don't think we can continue lurching from crisis to crisis like this every 6 months based on a future OBR prediction in 5 years' time. The Bank of England governor said this week we should avoid being overly interpreting that forecast and basing our economic policy on that. That's not a stable way to govern. And
so from what I've heard, she's backing the bill now, so tragic from someone who actually had promise.
It's essentially approval ratings a year after a party won power back. A year after Tony Blair was in power, approval ratings plus 30.
It glitches Twitter sometimes, so I can't pause videos. But, you know, David Cameron, after doing, you know, some austerity and stuff like that, he's on -3, right? Bruh.
Power, approval ratings plus 34. David Cameron, -3. Keir Starmer, -44. Sorry, 54. I'm sorry. 54. I'm not that short-sighted. How has that happened?
Well, by the Prime Minister's own admission, I think there are things that we haven't got entirely right in government.
So it's because of all his mistakes.
But I think the other thing I'd say fundamentally is, you know, you compare the condition of the country when Blair became leader, when Cameron became leader of our country, there were...
So Cameron was there a couple of years after the financial crash. You know, the biggest, I think it's one of the biggest recessions the country's ever seen. So if he's going to make the argument that they inherited difficult situations, it's a little bit difficult. Then again, you know, I think the country was at like what was it? Debt to GDP ratio was like 30% or something like that. So we're running like the debt wasn't that high compared to now.
Challenges, sure, there were significant challenges. But were there the multiple crises that we came in with, where pretty much every government department had a major crisis that on its own would normally dominate the newspapers, but was just one of many things we had to tackle and challenge? We were elected on a platform of change. Until people start feeling that change, I don't expect...
I'll tell you what, Big Dog, disabled people would have felt the change. Well, people would have felt that change, or people will feel that change to Pip.
The public to give the Prime Minister, me or anyone else a pat on the back for a job well done. I'm not going to be satisfied until I've delivered the change I want to see in the NHS, until people can get a GP appointment conveniently, until those waiting lists are down and waiting times are down to normal levels, until we can be certain that when you dial 999 an ambulance arrives in time. I'm not going to be satisfied until the job's done, and neither will the Prime Minister and neither will the rest of us. All I'd say to people, give change a chance. It's going to take time to turn the country around. We all knew that.
Yeah, you ran on a platform of change, and yet people see no change. It just looks worse. You look very flappy in terms of like when you have a goalkeeper who looks panicky all the time. It doesn't encourage confidence in people, especially with the amount of U-turns we've seen in the space of a year. Like, I don't think I've ever seen this many outside of Liz Truss. I'm trying to remember the massive U-turns that Sunak did. I think there's one over tainted blood, but I don't remember a ton of them.
We'll learn from our mistakes, but we'll also report back to you when we are getting things right. And there are plenty of examples of those. Just make sure you don't shout at the telly, because we're not pretending everything's sorted, even as we're reporting back.
He's come across a little bit more personable, I think. There is rumours like he would want to be leader after Starmer, so we'll have to keep an eye on this guy. But if you listen to actual people, comedian Rosie Jones saying the government never considered the real effect under the proposal that the changes would have for disabled people, and I agree with this.
It is going to put disabled people right at the heart of this review that's going to take place. Does that reassure you?
No.
Why not?
I think disabled people should have been at the heart of the matter from the beginning. They were never considering the real effect that this would have on us. And I have seen no evidence that they genuinely care for disabled people and our future. So I want to believe them, but so far they're not giving me any evidence to say they will do exactly that.
This is it, and the thing is, like, they can talk about, it's what the Conservatives said, putting people at the heart of these policies and whatever, but it's like, you haven't, because you're making their lives objectively worse. So how can you how could you make someone's life worse despite claiming you're doing what's in their best interest? It doesn't make any sense, unless of course you're lying, which, that's what we know about this Labour government. They love lying.
Members of the Cabinet, you on this programme this morning, and you've said it
we've covered this already, so it's fine. This is
landed quite well.
Journalist discussing this.
Well, with a lot of the people who have been very upset in the past few days. I'm sure that there are people in Number 10 and around government who think that he shouldn't be so apologetic. But broadly, speaking to people over the weekend, I think that there's sort of appreciation of that. But I think what's interesting also from just ringing around Labour MPs over the weekend is that they're not done. It's not just about these welfare reforms.
What do you mean they're not done?
That there's more they want. I think Louise Haigh was hinting at it, when she said that things need to change. She was criticising the economic strategy and the political strategy.
That's in the clip we covered a few minutes ago. And I agree, I think Labour MPs want a lot more, because nothing much good has happened this year.
you know, speaking privately to people, they're actually quite explicit. This is by no means all Labour MPs. Quite a lot of them are quite explicit that they want to see Rachel Reeves gone as Chancellor. They want to see Morgan McSweeney gone as Keir Starmer's Chief of Staff. That's the kind of change that they are gunning for.
Changing a Chancellor this early on would be very damaging. I'm trying to think of, you know, like Tony Blair. He had Gordon Brown in there for a long time. I think Gordon Brown, when he became PM, changed chancellors. Cameron kept George Osborne in there for 5 years. Theresa May kept, I think it was Philip Hammond, his name was. Then you had Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson got rid of a couple of chancellors. He got rid of Javid originally. So he got rid of Javid, put in Sunak. Sunak resigned, put in the tax avoidance guy. Bold geezer, looks evil. That guy, I can't remember his name. And then you had Liz Truss. She put in Kwasi Kwarteng, destroyed the economy, and she switched out for Hunt. So it's very rare. It's very rare you get a switch of chancellor.
I'm
Zahawi, that's it. Big Nadim.
not sure whether Keir Starmer will actually want to do that. They also kind of think it's unlikely, but I'm told it's been communicated to him in no uncertain terms that that is what they want. And even people in government have been describing this week to me as sort of the MP's revenge for the first year. That a lot of it was about these specific welfare reforms, but there's just a general frustration at all these other U-turns that Luke was mentioning, and even the loyal MPs feeling like they've been marched up the hill and marched back down again. Okay. So I think that question that you were asking, sort of what is the change? I mean, we're hearing that the number 10 will try to engage more with MPs, sort of as a minimum, but I think that
this has been the criticism of Starmer for since he became leader of opposition, that Starmer is unapproachable. Like, his top team is very exclusive. You know, they don't like certain people. They are very hard to contact. This is a criticism we've had for 3 years. So once again, like, this isn't new. None of this is new. Like, he's very introverted from what we heard, which, you know, in a politician isn't necessarily a bad thing, but also, like, you know, this idea that he's got a team around him that are going to protect him, that are going to make sure things get done, is just falling by the wayside. He's no Sir Alex Ferguson. That's for sure.
There's an interesting question as to whether they go further, whether they do that sort of economic reset that people like Louise Haig are calling for.
What do you think? My question: why is this guy not in? Why is which guy not in jail? Are you talking about Lammy? Oh, Zahawi. Zahawi, like, I think he got fined and that was it, innit? I think that's what they left it at. You know, certain crimes aren't, you know, apparently they don't send you to jail if you just pay it. Collins was shot at, what? And then you got this tweet from Angela Rayner saying, no one battling terminal owners should have to face the extra stress of over their job security. Insular? Don't you mean insular? Yeah, what word did I say? Like, exclusive? It's not inclusive, that's the wrong word. Very exclusive, like, as in you've got to be on the list to get in. So she goes, it's vital that employees with terminal illness are treated sensitively and with the best support. That's why I'm so proud we are backing this charter, dying to work. In the context of, you know, changing criteria and effectively trying to force more disabled people into work, do you think dying to work was the accurate term to put here? Especially when this is a person in Rayner who, you know, talked about the importance of PIP, you know, years ago, and now she's one of the ones cutting it. Is crazy, especially when, you know, there are leaks around that her fingerprints are all over these changes as well. You know, she will not become leader of the Labour Party, that's for sure. It won't happen. The membership won't have it. She's very much destroyed her political career. I hope she's happy with, you know, the few years she's going to have in power. Because I'm not sure if the Labour leadership goes, if they'll do a deputy leadership contest as well. Big Ange is gone. So a revolt on the left. While Labour's strategy of assuming left-leaning voters will inevitably return to the fold before the next election will prove to be a disastrous one. Now, I'm not sure if Bienkov has a charge on his... he does, yeah. So he does have a charge on his Substack, so we'll not read it, but fine. But, you know, Bienkov generally has good analysis. And so, yeah, you know, left-leaning voters won't come back. Like, especially the ones that have been damaged by Starmer, they're not coming back. Definitely not. So, So I just don't get it, honestly. Like, this whole strategy makes zero sense. All triangulation nonsense. Disabled Labour MP says welfare U-turn would create an unethical two-tier system. So you've got their own, more MPs discussing this openly. Olivia Blake, one of the few Labour MPs with a disclosed disability, has accused the government of creating an unethical two-tier system by its welfare bill concessions and urged rebels to stand firm. More exclusive in tomorrow's Guardian. This is Francis Ryan, saying, with so few MPs in the party having disclosed disabilities, Blake is disappointed Number 10 sidelined their input. So you have an MP who has a disability and you said, nah, we ain't going to listen to you, dog. Sorry. Outrageous behaviour. He says they say it's hugely frustrating, especially when colleagues have been going on the media day after day, incorrectly calling PIP an out-of-work benefit, she told me, which is true. So many politicians have gone up consistently in the media calling it an out-of-work benefit, which is 100% untrue. Blake speaks publicly for the first time about applying for PIP herself. Despite multiple debilitating conditions, she was rejected. It made me question myself as if I'd done something wrong. This isn't a system designed to support, it's a system that's toxic. And that's what we said beforehand about the PIP system. It was designed by the Conservatives. The argument that by supporting PIP as is, that we're supporting a Conservative system, cool. You're supporting a worse system than the Conservatives, so therefore you are worse than the Conservatives. Are you sure you want to take that title from them? You got a message from MPs. This is from Dr. Jay Watts, saying, as a consultant clinical psychologist, I must be clear, this green paper will cost lives, deepen despair and worsen inequality. Vote no. This is a person who has medical expertise, who has read through this and said, don't back this. You've got another MP, Kat Eccles, Labour MP of Stalbridge, saying, one of three of us will become disabled in our lifetime. Yesterday, I saw a friend who's involved in a RTC, I'm guessing road traffic collision, fracturing his ankle, neck and skull and facing a long recovery. The safety net needs to be there for all of us. And that's the point. Like, if something happens to you in your life where, maybe you have bad, not bad genetics, but flawed genetics, or maybe you get into a situation which is or isn't your fault, the state should be there to protect you. What is the point of having a state if it doesn't protect people? Not just protect people from outsiders, not just protect people, that are trying to actively damage or invade a country, but also protect people from harm within the country. What kind of state cannot do that, especially one which has the wealth that we have? This is a video of Liz Kendall.
Labour lost 40 out of 41 seats to the Scottish National Party, which positioned itself to the left of Labour on issues like austerity. How is a message of supporting Trident, supporting austerity, opposing, raising the top rate of tax, how's that going to win those voters back?
I'm the real anti-austerity candidate, because I'm the one who's going to beat the Tories, kick them out, and then get us a Labour government.
Labour lost 40 out of 41 seats to the Scottish National Party, which positioned itself to...
Yeah, this was Liz Kendall back then. Liz Kendall now hates this, seems to hate people that are out of work, hates the disabled, and she's been like this for over 10 years. So this was her running for leadership contest way back then. And then finally, not finally, actually, there's one more thing to talk about. So number 10 has confirmed major U-turns on welfare. All PIP claimants will forever remain on existing system and assessment. So these are the people currently on the system. Plan changes PIP assessments for new criteria from November 2026 will be subject to a ministerial review led by, do you know what, this should probably be near the start. Put this here. The UC, Universal Credit Health element, will be protected in real terms for all existing and new claimants. Number 10 spokesperson saying, we have listened to MPs and support the principle of reform but are worried about the pace of change. So effectively, this is, it looks to be a major turn. But the problem is the IFS estimates the welfare reform will save the government just 2.5 billion, half the original projected 5 billion. So, what I would be arguing, if Labour are desperate to argue about the financial situation, is to argue that cutting PIP will cost more than anything, honestly, because of the societal impact it will have. But surely there's an easier way to try and get 2.5 million back. Surely you can look at raising capital gains in line with income tax. There's got to be better ways than doing this. There's not much to cut here. That's the problem. It's outrageous, honestly. And this is the final bit. So I keep switching from light to dark. It can't be helped because of Google needs a dark mode. So the Prime Minister, right? He gave a big interview with The Observer recently. The Prime Minister had arrived from so this is about his infamous Island of Strangers speech. He goes, before the election, he regarded the door as the gateway between what he called real life. Still about his house, right? And he goes, as soon as he called real life and the slightly weird one to which he landed. As soon as I walk through the door, I'm just dad, he'd say. His home was a space preserved for family where he could be the person he was before he entered politics, right? And if those responsible for the arson attack probably didn't realise how important Starmer's front door was to how he viewed the world, setting it on fire had immediate effects on politics. This is absolute nonsense. Like, this fire had nothing to do with him being trash, making speeches that are xenophobic. This is the most ridiculous interview I've ever read. Honestly, this is almost as bad as the Trump stuff. The Prime Minister, who had arrived back from a 3-day trip to Ukraine the night before, was due to unveil the government's new immigration policy that morning. So you knew you're going on a trip, right? You knew you're going for 3 days. Why would you give a big showcase speech the next day? It doesn't make sense. It's fair to say I wasn't in the best state to be making a big speech. You could have delayed it, dog. You could have delayed the speech and said, look, due to personal reasons like your house being attacked and the trip from Ukraine, you're not feeling great. He goes, I was really worried. I almost said, I won't do the bloody press conference. Vic was really shaken up, as in truth was I. It was just a case of reading the words out and getting through it somehow. Like, my guy, like, you could have just cancelled it. This is just the most pathetic excuse. You've had over a month to come up with this. Really? The Prime Minister's words included a long section on the importance of having fair rules that give shape to our values and hold diverse nations such as Britain together. But when he went on to warn about such risks, he says, quote, we risk becoming an island of strangers, end quote, to many ears, which sounded like Enoch Powell. But you think, right, he had all this time on the plane to read the speech. He could have read the script on the plane. He could have read it in the car because he knew he was going to do it the next day. It's ridiculous. The left denounced the speech as shameful, which is true. Is dancing towards Reform UK's tune, which is 100% true. Starmer insists none of that is true. The speech was simply a mistake. I wouldn't have used those words if I'd known they were there. But you just what's the point of you? You're just reading a speech someone else wrote for you off a teleprompter. We could replace you with Ultron effectively, and it's the same thing. I had no idea, and my speech writers didn't know either. So if your speech writers didn't know, who's writing your speeches for a start? And surely, if they wrote your speech, they would know. Because that particular phrase, it wasn't right. I'll give you the honest truth. I deeply regret using it. I wouldn't have used those words. I had no idea, and my speech writers didn't know either. So who wrote the speech? Like, this is a guy who said the buck stops with me, right? It doesn't, because you're throwing ghosts under the bus here. Because you're not saying it's the speechwriter's fault. The Prime Minister accepts there are problems with the language in his foreword to the policy document that he said the record high numbers of immigrants were entering the UK under the last government done incalculable damage to the country, although Starmer says the issue needs addressing because the party had become too distant from working class people on things like immigration. Well, I would argue that working class, the people that have dumb ideas on immigration are just dumb, but that's because of the media and Farage feeding you a steady diet of fascism. This wasn't the way to do it in its current environment. Perhaps the best proof of this, that his words were accidental, is that they stand out by exception of how he's led his government since Labour's defeat in the by-election. I mean, the thing is, though, he has run a more xenophobic campaign. As with previous defeat at the hands of Boris Johnson, Tories and Hartlepool 4 years, the loss has had a cathartic effect on Starmer. No leader moves forward seamlessly without making mistakes, he says. But if you look back at what happened in 21, it was when I resolved we were never making the same mistake again. If there was one thing is that I learned, you clearly don't, pal. Like, honestly, you have a record of just consistent U-turns and making yourself look like a right twat because of the fact the internet exists. And then you get agitated in interviews when people quote you back, like when Ridge quoted you back on leaving the single market and protecting him, freedom of movement. Like, this man, he's a silly man. He's a silly, silly man, honestly. Let me see if I can find... There's a clip that's actually perfect for this. This is the guy we're dealing with here.
What did you find the knife in the car? You didn't find the knife in the car. You didn't find the knife in the car. You silly man. Silly man.
You silly man. Honestly, this guy is coming up with the most outrageous. I see you, Karen. The most outrageous excuses for being completely washed at his job. I don't get it. This article here is so fluff, so much fluff, and yet he still comes across badly. This is honestly just the most embarrassing interview with the most embarrassing guy. I don't get it. I don't get it, chat. Honestly. But yeah, I think we'll ask final questions if you guys got any more. If not, I'm gonna get ready to go. I want to start, getting ready to go to bed and stuff. So yeah, you guys got. I can't see the logic here. I've lost access to my soundboard because of the fact that I reinstalled Windows. It's the most heartbreaking thing. So I need to rebuild the soundboard, which I'll work on at some point during the week when I get bored, no doubt. But yeah, maybe Starmer's playing 4D. Don't start that nonsense, honestly. I had to deal with that endlessly from that absolute clown. But yeah, I had to. Honestly, you guys don't know how much damage that debate did. Because I was like, okay, this man's clearly not bright. And I was like, holy shit, this man's an idiot. Like, like normally I give people leeway on how dumb they are on things, or how ignorant they are of things. I try and be charitable a little bit. But I don't see it. Honestly. There's no real strategy here. It's just we're gonna grow. Like I said to you guys before the election, they kept saying we're gonna grow the economy. Asked how are you gonna grow the economy? I don't know. How long has he got? I think he's got a year or two in him. I think he'll make it to. So next election's gonna be in 29. I think he'll make it to 28. To be honest, 2028. I'll be real with you guys. I think he'll make it to 28, and then what he's going to say is he's not going to run again, and they'll do a leadership contest, and they'll try and bring someone else in. I can see that happening. He's old for a start, and he's also the problem. It's like this, right? With Biden, he ran again when he didn't have the mental capability to do it, but he also didn't have the political capital to do it. And he was very unpopular. So for me, like that tarnished his legacy a lot because he let Trump back in. And had he stood down earlier, people would have been all right. So I think Starmer would have seen that, and as long as he's got half a brain, would realize that he probably would struggle in the next election. He might win a majority, but it won't be great. So what he should do is, in my opinion, if I was him, if I was his writer or whatever, right, I'll say, look, call it a day, right? And you're one of the rare Labour prime ministers who have got rid of the Tory government. It's very rare that Labour actually do win elections. You think like I can't name all of them, but you've got like Clement Attlee, Tony Blair, the guy who was there during the Winter of Discontent. Can't remember his name. All of those kind of guys, yeah. You're talking. I think no, it's Misty. You've got about 4 or 5, I think, Labour prime ministers that we've ever had. So you go down in the books, the history books. So Harold Wilson, that's it. That's the guy I was thinking of. So you'll go down in the books. If you lose, you're just another Labour loser who's lost to the Conservatives. You're more a Gordon Brown, for example, or a Kinnock. You're more in that ilk of people. So for me personally, if I were him, 2028, I'm like, guys, I'm done. I want to spend time with my kids and all that kind of stuff. Callahan, okay. I want to spend time with my kids and stuff. We'll call it a day. So I think that's, if I were him, honestly, if I was him, that's what I'd do. That's my strategy. But the thing is, he's got the best tacticians because he does the opposite of what I want to do. So clearly, I don't know what I'm talking about. Even though I predicted a lot of these problems that were going to happen. But that's what happens when you got the ability to see the future, I guess. Or you've just got a brain that functions, honestly. Because I can tell you now, guys, some of these people, absolute idiots. And I'll be getting to them during the week, because I've got a lot of stuff to discuss. Because I can't lie, the circus is in town and they don't have buggy. But anyways, I'm gonna leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments, guys. If you do watch this back, I appreciate you've got 30 people in the you know, 30 people watching. Really appreciate all of you guys. A couple of super chats as well goes a long way. West Streeting, or I reckon it's not going to be there. It won't be any of the front bench. It's going to be down to the membership to pick a leader. It's not going to be Wes. It's not going to be Wes. It depends on if they get enough selection. I would love it to be Zara Sultana or something like that, but I don't see it. I think it's going to be, shocker, another old white dude. I don't know who or which one, but I've got a feeling it's going to be an old white dude. Someone with veteran status. So I don't know. Yeah, it could be Aki's. Yeah, he's an old white dude, but he's Scottish. That's the problem. It won't be Bailey. It won't be Rebecca Longlady. If Zara Sultana makes it on the ballot to be leader, I think she's one of the picks, because you only have to win like, I think it's like 5% of the MPs or something like that. It's not very high. Should win it landslide, easy dub. I wouldn't mind Dr. Khan. That would be a good. Should be a good pick. Actual medical qualifications, good speaker. Really eloquent person, seems very bright. I'd go with her. She would be a good pick, because I think to voters they would hear that she's a doctor, an actual medical doctor, and I think that will go, that'll make some distance. I'm not one of those kind of tick box people about, like, you know, ethnicity and stuff. I don't really care about that kind of stuff. But I'd go with her, especially when, like, you know, Labour would finally have a female leader as well, and, you know, the racists can't play the, oh, you know, Kemi Badenoch is a minority because Dr. Khan is of Asian descent. So, you know, she seems very cool. So I would go with her, to be honest. But we're gonna call it a day, guys. I'll probably be on Discord fairly soon. Might chat to you guys on Discord. It's just really hot. I can't be asked to do anything anyways. A couple of things to do, but I can't be asked. I'm baking in this room. Honestly, I need to get a fan or something. But yeah, no. Much love, guys. You know, I'm happy to be back. The kind of stuff between Israel and Iran this week was quite it made me feel quite disillusioned. Wednesday, maybe. I'd have to see because I might have D&D. I've got D&D next week, but I don't know what day. I think I've got D&D next week. We'll see. It might be Thursday. I've got to get some videos up as well. Like, I need to get back into the flow of things. So, you know, the stuff, like I said, with Israel and Iran was just depressing. But coming back to British politics is kind of my wheelhouse. There's this song I've been listening to as well. It's kind of jazzed me up a little bit. I don't know how to explain it, but I'll send you guys. I'll put the link to the song in the description. Don't want to play because I want copyright. Shouldn't get copyright for that anyways. And if not, I can just get rid of that. So it's probably not your taste of music, guys, but been listening to this all of today, and it's kind of excited me a little bit. It's kind of got my energy going a bit. So I'm quite excited to excited to come back. So yeah. Anyways, guys, I'll catch you lot probably in Discord in like 20 minutes. If you're on the Discord server, it's great. If you're not, then you really should be there. But anyways, guys, I'll catch you guys in about 20 minutes, half an hour. Bon Jovi, no thanks. What's it called? It's My Life, It's Now or Never. Alright, guys, bye.